Welcome to the Ethics Skill Podcast, where we explore human experiences. Today, we are performing an autopsy of the identity vacuum. We're going to look at the neuroscience of why isolation turns into murder. Why 71% of shooters or mass shooters are socially isolated by choice, by fear, by not feeling part of a group, not finding a tribe where they can navigate and feel like themselves. And why a bare minimum culture is creating a generation of men who would rather be infamous than ignored. We're going to tap into why we don't believe in our own identity and why we create these personas and how we invest more in our shadow and persona than in our own identity. Where does the shame come and what does fear do to your mind? I will suggest you put down your phone, or if you're using a phone, pay close attention, because this conversation will require your full attention, because you never know who you might be sitting next to. That person that you see that's quiet, that doesn't talk to anyone, that is different, that could be the next mass shooter. Let's start. First, we have to understand the anatomy of the void. What creates the void? What is the void? Of why we're seeing so many U.S. mass shooting in college and school campuses. Where do these insecurities come? And like I said before, we're going to be performing an autopsy so we can understand the complete behavior of how this transcended, how did it evolve, and what was the final outcome. Let's look first at the data. 52% of young adults live at home. That seems like a statistic of safety, right? Wrong. For many, it is a statistic of suspended animation. In words that we can understand, it's a way of creating safety through avoidance. And let's carefully understand the steps of how somebody that's so quiet, that doesn't seem to be taking part of the world and is not interested in the normal things people do, evolve into becoming a mass shooter. The first thing is we need to recognize that violence is never the first stop or the first step. It is the final stage of a long decaying process. It requires the bravery to commit the act through bonding all the traumas and all the emotions to one day just explode and implode. So let's analyze 4 steps. Isolation, the avoidance, the fact that these individuals don't want to take responsibilities. They're scared, they're afraid. And it normally starts with the digital safety, your phone, your tablet, your social media. This net replaces physical risk, real life experience, social bonds, teamwork environment, life experience. And then we go to anhedonia. The brain stops producing dopamine for normal activities. It stops you from making you feel joy, and this makes you stop feeling empathy. And after this comes the resentment. If you can't feel joy, you feel pressured, you feel guilt, you feel shame, you feel upset, you're mad at the world. And just because you don't take the responsibility, you start blaming everyone else except yourself. And you start with this resentment. You look at the world participating in life, and you start hating them for it. Because you believe you don't fit in, you're incapable, you're different, and you can't find yourself. This destroys your identity, or not destroys their identity. This destroys the ability to believe in your own identity. And the final stage is the externalization, the manifesto. You accumulate so much resentment, anger, jealousy, and the pain is so great. So you decide to force the world to feel it, to feel your pain, taking it to radical, extreme decisions with a life-changing outcome. Some commit suicide. Others decide to shoot at the world so you can feel what they feel. And we have to analyze the neuroscience behind this. When a human being has no friction, no challenges, like for example, no job, no bills, no social rejection, the brain's default mode network goes haywire. It doesn't know what to do, gets confused. This is the part of the brain that tells you where you are, where do you exist, where your feet is standing on firm ground or not. Without friction, without challenges, the DMN starts eating itself. Implosion. Keep everything in. You stop believing in your identity. And it starts creating a feedback loop of paranoid rumination. Like, for example, you aren't living, you're not good enough, you don't belong here, others are better than you, the unhealthy comparisons, you're just buffering. These automatic negative thoughts are overwhelming. They take a toll of you. They kidnap you. They sabotage you, making you feel that you have no values. Your worth is nothing. We have to ask ourselves, for those that haven't suffered through depression, anxiety, any emotional disorders, because it's hard to understand this. If you never felt it, if you never lived it, if you haven't seen someone experience it. If I stripped away your digital persona, the person you are as an influencer, as a content creator, your Wi-Fi, and your parents' financial safety net today, would there be enough of a self in you left to survive the silence, the chaos? Will you be able to organize yourselves in the void and rebuild your confidence to believe in your identity? Or will you dissolve? Will you seek help from a professional to help you get through these moments? Because at the end, if you don't learn how to validate yourself, your true identity with your data and build yourself up, ask yourself this question as well, then who would and who is responsible? I want to go into more details about the shootings, and we're going to analyze some cases. And we're going to start with Nicholas Cruz. He is the patient zero of the identity vacuum. He didn't have an ideology. His criterion was confused. He had a void. And now we'll explain why. What was that void? Think about, like, in his mind, there was a ghost in that machine. His mother, Linda, died 3 months prior to the incidents of this mass shooting. His brother Zachary was a bully. He was the alpha in the group, and Nicholas considered himself the runt, the one beneath his brother. I want you to think about when you feel inferior in a place where you believe everyone else is superior than you. Sometimes it makes you feel like you don't belong there, like you're a deleted file and you want to run away. He ran away from his own life, feeling that he didn't exist. Imagine if you feel that way with your own family, people that you should trust and that should upbring you. And we have to understand the psychological shift. What was he trying to do to navigate out of feeling as a deleted file? He wanted to be restored. So what he did, he used his phone to rehearse a strong persona, to hide behind a mask, pretending to be something that he wasn't. He recorded videos saying, "I'm going to be at the next school and become the next school shooter of 2018. Why? We should ask ourselves, why did he do this? Because in those videos, he was a god. He was powerful. Nobody could stop him. His ego elevated and he felt good about himself. Finally, he was alive. He wasn't a deleted file. But then when he went back out of his persona, he was a nobody. The Sneed family, who took him after his mother died, all they saw was a sad kid that just lost his mother. They couldn't see beyond that. They didn't know he was holding a gun to the head of his future every night in his dreams. This was his ultimate goal, and perhaps a sweet revenge to all the things that he couldn't achieve for himself. So I want to analyze step by step what happened so we can understand better the behavior. At 2:19 p.m., he takes an Uber to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. He doesn't drive himself, and there's a reason why. He becomes a passenger in his own life until this moment. At 2:21, he enters Building 12. He heads to the stairwell to assemble his AR-15. What's funny is a student sees him, and what Cruz does, he warns him, "You better get out of here," he says. Things are going to get messy. And we can see this is his last moment of humanity, of compassion, and dignity for himself. If we analyze this from a psychological perspective, we can see that doing this had a God complex for him. He granted mercy, almost like the Roman empires did to the gladiators at the Colosseum. And then came the attack. He moves to the first floor. He doesn't enter classrooms. He fires through the windows and the doors. He is erasing people he can't even see or touch. Then he moves to the second and third floor. And he could have kept shooting, but after his rifle jammed, he drops it. He had enough. He cleverly blends in with the other students and flees, escapes. He walks like nothing has happened to a Walmart, buys a soda, and then just sits at the McDonald's, trying to enter or re-enter to the normal world that he has just destroyed. The event was a manifestation of his frustration and fear, of wanting to feel power, and wanted people to understand his pain. What was the impact? 17 families who sent their child to school, and what they got back was a text message that their child wasn't coming back. The surviving students didn't just lose friends. They lost their inner peace. They lost their anonymity. They became the Parkland kids as we know them. They were forced to grow up on CNN. Question is, did we do right by exposing the surviving kids? It exposes the fact that we do not know how to handle these events from a psychological perspective, not only to prevent the shootings, but also how to deal with the aftermath of a shooting, especially with their kids involved. And I will leave you with these questions. I want to hear what your comments are. If the Snead family or his brothers or his brother had looked at his phone with all these videos talking about shooting other people, would 17 people be alive today? Would they have known what to do to stop and prevent this tragedy? Or was his isolation already a sealed tomb, a point of no return? Let me know what you think.